From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
We are going to dovetail off of Ben's story from this week where Rolls-Royce wants to mine the moon, and we are going to discuss a company that wants to mine deep, deep within the ocean. So deep within the ocean, down to the abyssal plane and beyond. And for me personally, it is a very frightening concept, and I'm having visions of terrible things happening in the future. I am not psychic, like many are, but
like unlocking some sort of like Lovecraftian rift between universes or something like that.
Oh, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Let's jump through. I'm going to read from a Guardian article titled "Race to the Bottom: The Disastrous Blindfolded Rush to Mine the Deep Sea." Ooh, it sounds so just ominous. Here we go. I'm going to read directly from this. It was written by Jonathan Watts. It was posted September 27th. In late June, the island republic of Nauru informed the International Seabed Authority, the ISA, based in Kingston, Jamaica, of its intention to start mining the seabed in the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, that's a very specific thing that we're going to talk about, in 2 years' time, via subsidiary of a Canadian firm called the Metals Company. You can look up the Metals Company if you wish. It's TMC. It's written as TMC, and it also may be known as Deep Green. At least previously, it was known as that.
Oh,
so let's talk.
That's a nice name,
right? Sounds good. Deep Green. Ooh. And Deep Green, the concept of green energy, plays heavily into this, as well as heavy metals. Wow, they're all the words that are coming together and forming thoughts, and we're building a tulpa here, guys. Here we go. So the Clarion-Clipperton. So the Clarion-Clipperton Zone is an area between the Hawaiian Islands and Mexico and on parts of America over here on this side. It's a fairly large zone. I mean, very, very large. And it is really what we're interested in, and these companies are interested in, is the very bottom, the actual seabed in this zone. And they're saying that this basically request, this written statement that you have 2 years to give us what we need in order to begin drilling, or at least exploring drilling on the seabed here, according to the article, was a starting gun for a resource race on the planet's last vast frontier, the abyssal plain that stretches between continental shelves deep below the oceans. So, what could this mean? This concept of a company wanting to drill for minerals down deep beneath the ocean. Well, they're looking at at least the things on the surface. Hey, see ya? Fishery disturbances, water contamination while it's happening, sound pollution that's going to affect any sea creatures within a considerable distance, as well as habitat destruction for numerous species that make their home close to the bottom of the ocean, or at least within the abyssal zone. And we know there's a ton of life down there. There's several documentaries you can watch on that right now. You can also continue reading that article that I already mentioned to learn about several major species, but there are countless others that we are not yet aware of, just because they're so deep and we haven't explored those areas yet. So the big question is, why would those potential risks be worth it? Right? Is it just for bottom line? Is there a greater good argument happening here? Why would mining companies want to mine for stuff there in particular? Well, it's because they know, because they've done, I guess, the initial exploration of what types of minerals exist in these places deep beneath the ocean. And they say that the minerals that are there, copper, nickel, magnesium, several others, are essential for the green transition that needs to occur on this planet in order to prevent the things that have been outlined by the Paris Climate Accords. So the company is at least making that argument, as well as probably the mining industry as a whole, as they want to go to the moon and to the depths of the ocean to find these things in places that they don't seem to exist on the planet, or at least are very difficult to get to on the planet and other places. This is a statement from that article. If the world wants to decarbonize and reach net zero emissions by 2050, they say we must start extracting these resources for car batteries and wind turbines very soon. That's why they're putting this pressure on by giving this 2-year notice, essentially. Now, if you want to learn more about the initiation of some of these actions, there's another Guardian article you can read titled "Deep Sea Mining Could Start in 2 Years After Pacific Nation of Nauru Gives UN Ultimatum." So that's really the starting point for everything. This initial article, the one that I mentioned at the top, is a little more analysis than what you get in this article, the deep sea mining one. But either way, you can see everything you need to know here. And what you'll find is that the largest voices saying no, or we should fight back against this, are people like at Greenpeace International, who see this as a major ecological problem of serious damage that will be caused by this mining operation, especially given the unknowns that exist. It seems like it's going to be an extremely difficult thing to achieve and do right and do safely to ensure that major ecological damage is not incurred.
I'm gonna side with unavoidable, just because, not because there are any like Captain Planet level supervillains here, but because the attempt to do this stuff is relatively new, right? I believe it's 1970s where they first, where different outfits first tried to dive into this. And one thing that they found was that the technology just wasn't there. And even if the technology is there, now, Matt, I really appreciate the point you are raising, which is the great unknown of deep sea ecology and what lives down there. Like it's not unusual in any given year for a new type of animal to be discovered at these depths of the ocean, including some of my favorite, like new varieties of octopuses. And there is, there is that argument they're making does have some sand, right? Because the idea here is that if everything goes smoothly, this will in some way mitigate the looming ecological disasters just around the chronological corner. But the issue with that is that everything will not go smoothly. It is virtually a certitude. Everything will not go smoothly in this regard. The money's just going to get too good. That's what's going to happen.
Well, the money will be too good because they're talking about vital materials, vital minerals needed to expand and to get us, again, humanity to a place where we've decided we need to get to. And talking about the 1970s when the first attempts to do this were occurring, I'm going to give you a quote from that article. There was some chief executive that was involved that isn't even, I don't think they're even attributed here for this quote, but this task was like, quote, standing on top of the Empire State Building and trying to pick up small stones on the sidewalk using a long straw at night. Just the concept of accurately, from whatever vantage you are on either the surface or even deep below the water, just nowhere near the level you need to get to actually access these areas easily, and just noodling around until you can suck some things up that you need. And you know what some of the regulatory bodies are looking at, some of the data that they have, can also be found online. I would highly recommend checking out, I think it's Frontiers in Marine Science. If you search for that, Deep Sea Environments and Ecology, there is an article here called Inactive Sulfide Ecosystems in the Deep Sea, a review. And if you look at this, it kind of goes deep into what would be mined here. And do you guys remember the vents, like the heat vents at the bottom of the ocean that we all learned about?
Sure.
These are the things where there's mineral buildup from these essentially exhaust pipes from the bottom of the ocean that they will break off. And the ones that they're targeting are ones that are inactive. They are currently not, ejecting the heat.
Sorry,
again,
as far as we know. Yeah, and let me correct myself. I misspoke. Hydrothermal vents, not geothermal. That was a rookie mistake. But the problem here is that these things that are a lot like geysers, right, basically on the ocean floor, they're home to some of the most unique naturally occurring life on this planet. Extremophiles, things that are literally the closest to what we might find on some alien planets, right? We are not alike. They are built different. And if there's an inactive hydrothermal vent, sure, that means that the rules are going to change, right? Because that heat essentially replaces the sun and the role the sun plays for the surface walkers. But still though, Matt, do we know enough? We being current civilization, do we know enough about what may or may not live around those inactive vents? Do they go through periods of activity and inactivity, right? Is the store permanently closed, or is it just, shut down for the weekend?
See, maybe. I don't know. I don't have those answers for you. I wish I did, but
no one does.
Right. But here's the thing. People are going to say you're callous, Matt. You're evil. I can't believe you. But I don't even care about all the animals that live down by the thermal vents. What I care about is the concept that they're messing with the system beneath those actual vents that are venting out that energy. And I'm thinking about this as the fracking industry. If this is really the first salvo from a company to go down there and really start digging stuff up and taking all these minerals out, and they do a good job, and oh man, the shareholders are all happy with this, the next company comes along and they start doing it at another spot on the ocean. They start disturbing it. What if they disturb some process the way nobody knew fracking was going to disturb the ground and cause earthquakes? They cause some other stuff to happen, and now we're talking about deep under the sea.
I think this is going to be on the mind of a lot of people who have tuned into the show. I mentioned Ozymandias earlier. That's where we might end up with some half-done work on the moon. But in this case, deep in the ink, I suggest that we all think of the quotation by the infamous poet Abdul al-Hazred, which is this: "That is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange eons even death may die." Props to anybody who cares about that line. Gets that terrible reference. And the dreamless sleep and so on. But yeah, what will those ramifications be? Now, I would say that the fracking science history has proven was the initial stuff was largely made in bad faith, or it was constrained in such a way that they were setting up this very ideal set of conditions. And we know that companies involved in fracking were fully aware that of the possibility of manufacturing earthquakes, the possibility of poisoning drinking water, and they went ahead with it. So it's troubling. It's a troubling precedent, and I don't want to say that this means that these folks are themselves acting in bad faith. I'm just saying overall, humans don't have the best track record. And by the time some of these things come to light or are publicly acknowledged, the damage is done. Imagine human beings, thanks to these mining projects, discover new classes of extremophiles, can discover animals that were before just relegated to rumors and tall tales of sailors, and we only find them when they're dead. Yeah, that's a kick, I think. That's a real kick in the tentacles. That's a real flick in the blowhole there. You know what I mean?
I mean, to me, a flick to the blowhole sounds an awful lot like a poke to the bear. So maybe don't do either of those things if you don't want to get eaten alive or swallowed whole.
Yes, and hey, I agreed. Jumping back in here, guys. So I don't want every look. You've already written your hate mail. I get it. You heard me say that thing about the animals. It's cool, but listen. Just listen. We're in a pretty bad state right now. If we, as a species, want to continue living, it seems a lot like we need to do some things to move the needle when it comes to how we get energy and use energy on the planet. If this is one step towards those goals and, saving humanity, I'm down with it. And there's going to be some problems. And, we're talking about deaths of potentially millions of animals, if not more. That's terrible. But does it save us? I'm maybe okay with that. Sorry, this is just my opinion. This is where I'm at right now, guys, okay? I have a son. I got to think about him. He's got to outlive
cutting
me.
Cutting off a limb to save the body.
Well, yeah, I mean that's at least that's the argument, and I'm not saying I agree with that. But if that is true, right, and that is what the actual aims are, and it could get us there, then I am interested in pursuing that. But what you should listen to are the experts in this field, and they've signed a petition that says, hey, let's not do this, guys. You can head on over to seabedminingsciencestatement.org and read a statement from marine experts calling for deep sea mining to not occur. Just
a petition.
Do
We're
not allow this
saved.
thing to occur. I know it's a petition, but
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer. They're going to do it. I don't care about petitions.
I know. I mean, there's a bottom line here, right? And there's potential for there's a lot of potential things going on here. If you go to the very bottom of that page, you can find peer review journal resources, which is, I would say, one of the best places to start. If you want to be serious about this and you don't want to just read headlines in an article, highly recommend going there and doing that. And you'll learn why in 2 years' time from now, when the first deep seabed mining occurs, we unearth the alien civilization that has been here the whole time, and they were underneath those vents.
To paraphrase the old adage, maybe we should let sleeping gods lie. But you're right. The only thing I would say in response to that argument of endangering a portion of life to save something else, to save the greater portion or the life that humans tend to prioritize, is that argument is a little tougher to maintain when you realize the marine ecosystem is already at a crisis point and it is part of a larger interconnected system. It's not discrete. It doesn't exist on its own, but that's where we are, aren't we? Blow up the moon, drill in the sea, send in the clowns. This is a pretty good show this week.
Just like the clowns, the aliens are already there.